Guide to Grammar, Identifying the Parts of Speech, Part 4, Participles as Verbals. Introduction. Welcome back to another grammar lesson in the Identifying the Parts of Speech lesson series, part of the Grammar Guide course. This is the fourth lesson. To get caught up, in the third lesson we discussed at length the topic of verbs, the infinitive form of verbs and inflected verbs, and infinitives used as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs, that is verbal infinitives. Verbals. In this lesson and in the next we will continue on in our exploration of verbs and verbals and how they function in the sentence. Verbals are words that are based on a verb and function grammatically in a sentence as another part of speech, such as a noun, adjective, or adverb. There are three types of verbals: gerunds, participles, and infinitives. As an adjective, the term verbal can also mean relating to words, as in verbal irony; spoken rather than written, as in verbal communication, a verbal agreement or contract, a verbal exchange, or verbal abuse. This lesson focuses largely on participle verbals. Participle, simply defined, means a word that is derived from a verb, as in present and past participle verbs, ing verbs and adverbs respectively. Naturally, participles are tied up with tenses, as it were, so we will look at a variety of examples for the purposes of analysing their structure, identifying the main verbs in the sentence, that is predicates, and their tenses. We will also be making comparisons between sentences written in different tenses in both active and passive voices. This means that we will also be identifying and distinguishing main verbs from auxiliary verbs. Finally, and most importantly, we will be distinguishing main verbs from adjectival or adverbial participles. This is an advanced lesson that covers many kinds of grammatical concepts including complex sentences using dependent clauses. A lot of these concepts have already been covered thoroughly in previous lessons. Many others, however, may be new and unfamiliar. I will endeavour to define and explain terms and concepts as they come about. I would recommend that you review the other grammar lessons provided in this course to get the full benefit, and to reread and or rewatch this lesson several times if you need to. You can find all of my other grammar resources, both in video and written format, on the website. Leave a comment or write to me if you have any questions or other remarks. Follow me for future content like this. Infinitives review. Infinitives, we have already discussed at length, are verbals that function as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. They start with to followed by the base form of the verb and they function in the sentence as nouns, adjectives or adverbs. For example, I have a lot of work to do now. What do you want to be when you grow up? We like to play badminton. Participles. The word participle has two meanings, or rather, it can be used in two ways. Participle, simply defined, means a word that is derived from a verb. Participles commonly end in ing or ed, or, in the case of irregular verbs, they are changed entirely. The table below is a very common way to show the different forms verbs take when used in different tenses. For example, present participle, also called the present continuous or present progressive participle, and the past participle, etc. Our aim in this lesson, however, is not to talk about verb tenses. Our aim, for now, is to discuss participles used as adjectives, so we will move on from this topic and return to it at a later time. Present participles. Participles are verbals when they act as adjectives to modify nouns or pronouns in a sentence. For example, the dog is barking and chasing the cat. The barking dog chased the cat. In sentence 1, barking and chasing are present participles used as verbs. In sentence 2, barking is a participle acting as an adjective, that is a verbal, because it is not the main verb in the sentence. Rather, it is used to describe or modify the subject, the dog. It barks as it chases the cat. Past participles. She baked bread. Its aroma filled the air round the kitchen. The aroma of the baked bread filled the air round the kitchen. The aroma of the bread that she baked filled the air round the kitchen. In example 3, there are two sentences using the past participle verbs baked and filled. In example 4, The participle baked is used as an adjective to describe the bread. The subject of the sentence is the aroma of the bread. The main verb is filled. In example 5, a modifier is inserted between the subject, the aroma of the bread, and the predicate, filled the air. Normally modifiers are demarcated by commas except when the pronoun that is used. Irregular verbs and past participles in the perfect tense. Write the report and submit it by the end of the week. By the end of the week, after you have written the report, submit it. Submit the written report by the end of the week. Have the written reports been submitted yet? The report that you wrote wasn't submitted on time. Example 6 is a compound sentence. In the first clause, write is the main verb, and submit is the main verb in the second. The pronoun in it in the second clause refers to the report named in the first clause. Example 7 has two adverbial dependent clauses. The sentence could be written alternatively as, submit it by the end of the week, with by the end of the week being the adverbial clause. When the adverbial is written before the predicate in the sentence, it is a dependent adverbial clause and it must be demarcated by a comma. A modifying adverbial clause is inserted between the first adverbial clause and the predicate, submit it. Contained in the modifier we have after you have written the report, which uses the past participle of the verb write which is written. It takes the future perfect tense. This is an imperative sentence, meaning it is said as a command. It contains several instructions. 1. Write the report. 2. Submit it after it has been written. 3. Submit it before the end of the week and not later. We often use dependent clauses to merge several simple sentences together into a complex sentence containing mixed tenses. In example 8, the participle written is used as an adjective. In example 9, the participle written is used as an adjective. The sentence is framed as a question and it takes the present perfect tense. The question is also asked using what is known as the passive voice. The passive voice is used when the subject in the sentence is omitted for various reasons. We can identify that the passive voice is being used when we recognize the auxiliary verb be used before the main verb, and we can recognize the tense by looking at that same auxiliary verb. In a passive sentence, the main verb will always take the past participle form. In this case, the main verb is submitted or has been submitted. In example 10, we have another past tense passive sentence. The main verb is submitted, or wasn't submitted. Between the subject, the report, and the predicate, wasn't submitted, we have an adjectival participle used in a dependent clause, that you wrote. Were the sentence to be written as a simple sentence, it could be written as a report wasn't submitted on time, your report wasn't submitted on time, or why is your report late? See also, for more about predicates, watch or read Part 1, Nouns, Verbs, Adjectives and Adverbs in this grammar course. For more about dependent clauses, watch or read 10 common writing mistakes. We will return to this topic again in the future. Participles summary. Participles are a particular form of verb that has two main purposes. Connect with auxiliary verbs to create different tenses, such as the present perfect tense. Turn the verb into an adjective to modify nouns. Verbal summary. In grammar, a verbal is a word derived from a verb that functions in a sentence as a noun or modifier rather than as a verb. Verbals include infinitives, participles, and gerunds. A word group based on a verbal is called a verbal phrase, as in adjectival or adverbial. Unlike ordinary verbs, verbals are not inflected for person and tense. Thus far we have covered 2 of the 3 verbals, infinitives and participles. In our next lesson we will look at gerunds in greater detail. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, please remember to follow this channel. Help us grow to reach more audiences by liking the video and sharing it. If you would like to become a VIP member, or you are interested in having a free consultation, write to us. Or, go to www.practicalenglishwithdarcy.blogspot.com for more.